Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
Nothing to it but to do it. Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Tider Insider TV, as you heard, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. They do great work here in West Alabama. I'm Gary Harris. Joining me, of course, is Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I like to think of this as the best 30 minutes in local sports television, Rodney, so let's don't waste any more time with me talking. Let's get right to it and get into some business. Fall camp is about creating habits. That's what Nick Saban says. One way or the other. You're either going to create good habits or bad habits. Bottom line is it's up to the players to create the habits that you need to be successful. Alabama had practice number 5 this afternoon. It was inside the Hank Crisp indoor practice facility, the final day in Shells. Now, this is video of the workout from Saturday on Fan Day because video today was not made available to us. We will get video again tomorrow when the first day of pads go on because, as you know, we don't get to go to practice, although we did get to go to this one. This is the only one we'll get to attend. Alabama held that open practice inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. You're looking at some video. We saw the offensive line. We see the quarterbacks, Ja'Cory Brooks. Of course, Nick Saban working with the DBs, Terry and Arnold. And you'll see tight end C.J. Dupree. Everybody was there. And Rodney, let's jump right in. Let's start with the obvious. I asked you this on my radio show yesterday. It's only one practice. And it's the only one that we'll see. But still, you kept notes. You made observations. Everybody wants to know about the quarterbacks. What was your impression and takeaway from the 3 quarterbacks? We'll get to the freshmen in a minute, but the 3 quarterbacks that are competing for the starting job.
You know what? I really saw some good things from all 3 of them, Gary. I thought they all made some good throws at times. In the 7-on-7, I thought when they went 11-on-11, that they all stood in under pressure, made some good throws. I saw dramatic improvement from Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe. Of course, we didn't see Tyler Buckner in the spring. He was still at Notre Dame. But I thought Tyler Buckner, for his 3rd practice, I thought he did really well. This is a big adjustment. You have to consider this. Sam Hartman's one of the top quarterbacks in the country. He transferred to Notre Dame, and he struggled some at Notre Dame in their spring practice because he's getting acclimated to the new system. He's getting acclimated to new players. Kind of the same thing with Tyler Buckner here. But I thought for a 3rd practice, such limited opportunities that he looked really good. So very promising from what I saw in terms of the potential that they have.
All right, I sat next to you, so I know you were kind of taking notes on all the position groups, but one I want to ask you about specifically because it's where Alabama's made its hay under Nick Saban, and I think that's been up front on the defensive line. When Alabama's had its best teams, they've had dominant defensive fronts. Let's not kid ourselves, Rodney. Your impressions of the defensive line, and I'm going to say this. I mentioned this to you. I said I know they got to build some depth, but that front 3 they're going to run out there of Aboigbe, Tim Smith, and Jaheim Otis, physically, I think they'll match up with any 3 in the country or any front in the country, whether it's Georgia, LSU, Ohio State, Michigan, anywhere. I mean, that's a good-looking threesome. So you know you've got experience and talent there. What about overall as a group?
Well, first of all, let's talk about those 3 because you're right. I mean, when you look at those 3, they were highly recruited. They should be good. Tim Smith was really highly recruited. He was a really good player coming out of high school, and I think he should be a dominant player. I think Jaheim Otis, same thing. Justin Aboigbe was really playing well last year before his injury, so I expect him to take that leadership role. But overall, Gary, I think, to me, you can see the talent behind those guys. There's a lot of guys to develop, whether it's James Smith, Tim Keenan, Monkel Goodwine, and Quinn Barnes. I mean, we could go on and on talking about several others, but here's the key to me. And let me say this one, too. Isaiah Hastings. I think the redshirt freshman is really going to be a good player. There he is right there, number 99. I think he's got a chance to develop into a really good player. Here's the thing. I think injuries, these guys staying healthy, those first 3 especially, that's going to be a real key because those guys, they're the experienced guys. They're going to be the leaders up front.
Back to offense, outside of quarterbacks. Obviously, the offensive line's got a block, but I think they're going to be okay there. Tight ends and wide receivers, because the running back group, we know, let's just be honest, it's loaded with talent. Wide receivers, tight ends.
Yeah, first of all, the tight ends, I'm really excited about them. We didn't see a lot of balls thrown to them. At least I didn't see a lot in this scrimmage. Well, it actually was not a scrimmage, but a practice. I expect them to be heavily involved in the passing game. C.J. Dupree, the tight end that transferred from Maryland, I think he's going to be really good. Amari Nyblack, we've talked about him over and over. Danny Lewis, Miles Kitzelman, Robbie Oots. I mean, it's a room that's full of talent, and I think it's going to be a really good room. Now, the wide receivers, again, I think you have a lot of guys that contribute. We can talk about all of those guys individually, whether it's Isaiah Bond, Kendrick Law, Jermaine Burton, who's had a really good summer, Ja'Cory Brooks, Malik Benson, the transfer. Here's the key, and there are other guys, but Gary, to me, the key is they've got to catch the ball consistently. And you know, I saw a few balls that were dropped that could have been big plays. Bond dropped one that could have been a touchdown. I know Kendrick Law, who is really dependable, he dropped a couple. But here's the thing, when you drop those balls in a big game, I mean, that could make a huge difference. So I think consistency catching the ball.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hit you in the hands. And if it's not perfect, got to catch those balls if you're going to win on offense. All right, it's time for Coach Talk. On Sunday, it was a rare treat for reporters. Football Media Day is an opportunity to hear from the coordinators. And that's the only time we'll hear from them now until there's postseason games where they're required to talk. And when new Alabama defensive coordinator Kevin Steele, I guess it's okay to call him new, this is his third stint at Alabama, when he took the podium, the 65-year-old Steele praised Alabama's 31-year-old offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees. Not just for his play calling, but his mentality. He said he's kind of like an old soul. And he says he kids Tommy sometimes that he should have been a defensive coach because he's got a mentality about toughness.
He is a extremely, extremely bright football coach. But he has I kid him about this, Notre Dame quarterback from Chicago. He's very tough. He's got a defensive mentality. I don't know if he'd appreciate me saying that about it, but he's a very tough football coach and very, very smart. But he's the same every day. That's the best part about Tommy. He's the same every day. He's got ice water in his veins.
Coach Steele, as I said, more than 30 years older than Tommy Rees. But, in fact, Coach Steele, Rodney, said that he knew Tommy's dad, Bill, before Tommy was born. But, you know, one's 65, one's 31, one coaches defense, one coaches offense. But you get the feeling that they really like each other, respect each other. And I tell you this, I didn't get the chance to ask Tommy Rees this, but I wanted to, and it just didn't get an opportunity. I get a feeling, even though Steele's on the defensive side, he's going to lean on him. Just in terms of learning about Alabama, he's been with Coach Saban, still has three different times. I like the chemistry between these two coordinators, and I think that's important. I know when Kiffin was here and Smart was here, they really liked each other, Rodney, and I think that helps when both sides of the ball as coaching staffs are on the same page too, not just on the same side of the ball.
No, I think it always. Anything that's positive is good. And I think that their relationship obviously seems to be really positive. And, you know, talking about Kevin Steele, the one thing that really caught my attention, Gary, was how he kept pounding on the core principles of Nick Saban, the defense, the program, do your job. Those are things that, you know, is good to hear. I think he's going to bring back a lot of those things that maybe weren't quite up to what we had seen over the last few years. I'm really looking forward to seeing his defense.
Yeah, and you're hearing a lot about physicality on both sides of the ball. Not that Alabama has never been a finesse team, but I do think there's a feeling that in the last couple of the years, maybe some of that physicality has slipped.
Yeah, I agree. And I said his defense, really his influence on this defense in that regard that you're talking about, Gary. I think playing with passion, playing with energy, playing sound fundamentally, tackling well. I think all of those things are something that Kevin Steele's going to stress, and I think we're going to see improvement. All
right, let's move on. Monday morning, the USA Today preseason coaches poll was released. No surprise that Georgia's number one. Michigan's number two. I don't know about that. Alabama is third, but the Tide did get 4 first-place votes. Of course, Georgia got 61. Ohio State, the fourth-place team, got the other first-place votes. So Georgia, a dominant number one. But you see 3 SEC teams there in the top 5 with Alabama, Georgia, and LSU. Tennessee's at number 10, so 4 in the top 10. But then after that, Rodney, there's only 2 more teams in there between 20 and 25. Ole Miss at 22, Texas A&M at 25. Again, not that this matters, but I do think to some degree it does a little bit, because if you're high in the polls, you don't have to, roll up through the rankings. You're already kind of there. Alabama takes care of its business at number 3. They're going to be in the playoff.
Yeah, it's going to be a real interesting season. Again, the preseason poll is what it is. It really doesn't make a lot of difference. It kind of depends, obviously, on how you play. And you know what, Gary? We've talked about this. I know Middle Tennessee is the first game, but that Texas game real early, that's going to be a real strong indication.
Could be a barometer, no doubt about it. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama flipped one of the best defensive backs in the nation today, and not just from any school, but maybe the Tide's #1 rival these days. And while Nick Saban was signing autographs at Fan Day, he was landing a commitment from another top player. This one, a receiver from the state of Tennessee. So Alabama recruiting just keeps on rolling. You get good through recruiting, you stay good through recruiting, and really, you either recruit or you don't stay at the top. And also coming up, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. There's the phone number, 205-348-WVOA, 348-9882. There's the email on your screen. Listen, phone lines are open. We want to hear from you, Tider Insider Nation, so give us a call. We'll be back with more TITV right after this. And welcome back to TITV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. With Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVOA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. And while fall camp is in full swing for Crimson Tide football, recruiting is always in full swing. It doesn't slow down just because Alabama's getting ready for the season. And a lot of recruiting news, Rodney. There had been talk for several weeks that 5-star safety Peyton Woodyard of St. John Bosco High School in Bellflower, California, near Los Angeles, would eventually flip his commitment from Georgia to Alabama. That became reality today. Now, this guy isn't just another safety prospect. You're talking 6'2", 188, 40 offers, including Alabama, Georgia, USC, all the big shots. Been committed to Georgia since January. Top 100 player, 5-star safety. Alabama's putting together an impressive defensive back class.
They really are. I mean, and again, you look at Peyton Woodyard. He's played against top competition, plays against Mater Dei, one of the top programs in the country. Of course, John Bosco is one of the top elite programs in the country as well. A lot of competition in high school, Gary. That's always good when you have a guy coming in that's played against high-quality competition in high school because it knows how to compete at the highest level. And he's a really talented player, obviously. He's got good size. He's got good range. He moves extremely well. I mean, he's really physical. Look at him come up and make the
line of
tackles.
Scrimmage, yeah.
So I really like him. Obviously, he's one of the best safeties in the country.
Extra juice just because he didn't just commit to Bama, but he flipped from Georgia to do it?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a blow to them. And, you know, when you look at, they lost K.J. Bolden, who committed to a 5-star safety, committed to Florida State over the weekend. And now this is a real blow to them.
Alabama, I know you don't get into rankings too much, and there's a lot left, but I'm assuming this gives the Tide a jolt, too, in the recruiting rankings.
Yeah, it does. And I did notice, I guess now some rankings have them in the top 5, still have a ways to go. But they have 16 commitments, probably have, 8, 10 more coming. So could get up there. Yeah,
be right back where they always are, it looks like. All right, that happened today. This past Saturday, Coach Saban landed a wide receiver commitment. They needed that after the flip of Perry Thompson from Alabama to Auburn, the Foley receiver. Amari Jefferson, a Baylor school in Chattanooga, made his commitment to the Tide on Saturday afternoon in front of a big crowd. Now, he had been committed to Tennessee for a couple years as a baseball commit. He's going to play both sports, but he announced that he was going to make a football decision, and it came down to Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. So not only is this another really talented player in your class, but you beat out 2 of your top rivals.
Yeah, you did. And look, hey, Tennessee, the way they use receivers, and for him to choose Alabama, that's a good sign. Obviously, they know what they're looking at with receivers, and obviously Alabama does as well. But, just his speed, Gary, is one thing. You see him out running guys there. I mean, and it's his ability after the catch to make plays. Look at that cut right there, just a subtle move. I mean, he's got it all. And the guy that plays baseball, he's really got good judgment when the ball's in the air.
Great hand-eye coordination. And like we said, needed a receiver after Perry Thompson flipped from Alabama to Auburn. All right, let's keep it rolling. Still to come on TITV, baseball coach Rob Vaughn lands a big-time pitcher. I mean big. Emphasis on big, and can really throw hard. From the transfer portal, we'll have that coming up for you. Plus, next, we're getting to the phone calls. So if you want to get through, give us a ring. 205-348-9882. 348-9882 is the number. We want to hear from you, Tider Insider Nation. We'll be back with phone calls and more next when this edition of TITV continues on WVOA 23. First-year Alabama head baseball coach Rob Vaughn has added another transfer to next year's roster. right-handed pitcher Pierce George announced his commitment to the Crimson Tide. He's coming in from Texas. Now, he's big, 6'7", like 240 pounds, hits 99 with a fastball, slider in the mid-80s. Didn't pitch a lot for Texas this past year, but he's a young guy, and he's got the talent. He's got the arm, Rod. So, when you hit 99, you can be called a power pitcher. I think that's pretty safe to say.
Wow. What an intimidating force.
Yeah. Pierce George coming into UA from UT. All right, welcome back into the program. It's time to get to some phone calls, and we're going to get to our email of the day as well. Right now, let's jump out on the hotline and talk to BT, Bill Taylor, right here in Tuscaloosa. Hey, BT, good evening.
Hey, Gary. Hello, Rodney. And I want to ask y'all a question about does the basketball team have any recruits for high school or transfer coming in?
Yeah, BT, they sure do. In fact, it's a good thing that they do. The roster was gutted after this past season, and Nate Oates has quickly went to work and put together another good roster. 4 freshmen coming in: Jaron Stevenson, Sam Walters, Mohamed Diabate, Chris Parker. Rodney's got transferred. Mohamed Wagay out of West Virginia, 6'10". Of course, Grant Nelson, 6'11", coming in from North Dakota State. 2 really good guards, and Latrell Reitzel from Cal State Fullerton and Aaron Estrada from Hofstra. These are big, fast, physical guards. So, yeah, I'd say he's bringing in some talent to replenish the roster after they lost a lot of really good guys.
I'm excited to see them all.
Yeah.
I mean, I really am. I think Jaron Stevenson's a guy. How does he make that transition, Gary? Reclassifying, being a true freshman, highly recruited player out of the state of North Carolina. But I'm also excited to see how Grant Nelson makes that transition from North Dakota State, playing in the SEC. He's played against SEC competition and played well. But how will he do it night in and night out? Yeah,
I've said this before. I think Coach Nate Oates gets it. I mean, I think he's as equipped to handle the modern game of basketball, not just from a playing style and X's and O's, but from handling the portal. You got to build these rosters year to year, and he's proving that he can do it. All right, let's get to our email question of the day, brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. KDM Service Corporation, serving your family like our family when it comes to all your heating and air conditioning needs. It's KDM Service Corporation. All right, here is our email of the day. It's from Mary in Atlanta. Is there any chance Dylan Lonergan or Eli Holstein could win the quarterback job? 2 true freshmen. Mary, that's a fair question. I'm going to let Rodney answer that. I would doubt it. But you know what? If one of them just were to blow away Tommy Rees and Nick Saban, you never know. So it's doubtful, but I think right now, anything's possible, I guess, until they name a starter.
Yeah, I guess it's possible. Again, I think they're both really talented. That's the key. I think they're 2 really talented young players that at that position that can develop in the future. Yeah, I think they've got both of them have a chance to really compete very strongly for the job. This year, I'd lean toward Gary said probably not, but you never say never.
Yeah, they're competing. We do know that. In fact, Reese said Sunday that really they're repping 5 quarterbacks, not just 3. All right, thanks for those phone calls and emails. We've got more to come here on TITV. When we come back, Alabama women's basketball is on a world tour. Find out where Christy Curry's squad is at this week. And more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number is right there on your screen, and we have phone lines open. 205-348-9882. Hey, football is right around the corner. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back with more TITV after this. Bama women's basketball kicked off a 10-day foreign tour to Spain on Saturday. The team will take visits to Barcelona, Madrid, and Valencia on the trip. It will be the program's first ever trip to the country and 3rd foreign tour under head coach Christy Curry. Alabama's previous trips were to Italy in 2015 and Canada in 2019. Crimson Tide will play 3 games on their tour of Spain. That ought to be pretty cool. Welcome back into TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's get back out on the phone lines, and we're going to talk to Putty over in Alabaster. Hey, Putty, how are you?
Hey, Gary. Hey, Rodney. How are y'all?
Doing well.
Hey, I want to ask who y'all think will start at inside linebackers, and which one do you think will be calling the signals?
All right, well, I can tell you one, and I'll let Rodney take that. Deontay Lawson is going to be a starter, and it would be my guess that he'll be the signal caller. I do think there's still that other inside linebacker spot to be decided. Who do you think that will be, and do you think Lawson will be the signal caller?
Well, Jihad Campbell ran with the first group that we saw. Of course, they alternated some guys in. Justin Jefferson, Trez Marshall. Those are guys that I think are really competing. Sean Murphy's another young player that I think's got a lot of talent. But I think Jihad Campbell's a guy that Gary potentially could be a real star eventually. As far as who calls the signals, I certainly lean toward Deontay Lawson.
Yeah, just the experience factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get to let's go down to Daphne and talk to Bob. Hey, Bob.
Hey, buddy, I wanted to find out about the Adams boy that was the receiver and got hurt. What can you tell me about him?
Yeah, out of Oswego, Oklahoma. They like him a lot. Dealt with some injuries in the spring. Eventually could factor in on punt and kick returns as well. Sure-handed kid. They like Cole Adams. Obviously, went out to Oklahoma to recruit him and signed him, and he's here. And I think in the future he's got a chance to be a good wide receiver, right?
He really does. I think if he, can stay healthy, I think he's had a few little nicks and bruises here. Look, he had a really good first scrimmage in the spring. He enrolled early. I had high school coaches that attended the scrimmage, Gary, and they said, who is this number 13? I mean, this guy's got a lot of ability. He's really explosive, a big play guy. But, he's got to stay healthy, and hopefully, eventually, he will have that opportunity.
All right, we're going to get to an email, Rod, and let's take a look at the email that we've got, if we've got it. All right, is it the softball email? All right, no, it's about the starter at tight end. I don't see it on the... Okay, there it is. Lawrence and Alabaster. I got to be able to see these things, guys. Who can we expect to be the starter at tight end, Rodney?
Well, I think, you might have two. You might have two guys starting at once. It just depends. But I would say, obviously, C.J. Dupree, the transfer from Maryland's got a great opportunity. I think he'll nail that job down. I think you'll see a Mari Nyblack in there as well. But, again, I think you'll see Danny Lewis. You'll see Miles Kitzman. You'll see Robbie Oots. They've got a really good room there, Gary. They're going to use a lot of those tight ends.
All right, I know we got to get to the break. I know Reg from Birmingham called in and said he'd been in the hospital. Reg, we hope you've had a full recovery. I know if you had to get off the phone or we lost you or what, but try to call back next week, buddy, if you can. We'd love to hear from you. All right, we're going to take our final break and come back and wrap up this edition of Cat TV. It rained earlier, but it's beautiful outside on campus right now. Look at that sky. We'll be back after this. All right, thanks for tuning in to Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. A reminder, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 on WVOA 23 or find it anytime at WVOA23.com. We're going to leave you with some video from Fan Day on Sunday inside the stadium. Bama fans getting interviews, or not, I guess interviews. They got to talk to the players, but they got a lot of stuff signed. So for Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching TITV. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again next week, everybody.